Chef Hank, how are
Chef,
you doing today?
I'm doing well, actually. I have to apologize for my where I am. Actually, where we get busy sometimes, and I'm definitely not doing what I do alone. I have a lot of help, but I don't have a truck driver, so
Oh,
sometimes I have to get in the box truck and go save some produce or some meat somewhere. So I was had an emergency pop up, or actually this was scheduled, but I didn't have a driver. So I'm
oh,
on
I'm
the
so
side of
sorry
the
to hear that, but we
no,
do
no, no, no.
appreciate.
It's actually great. I found a quiet, cool place to park, and
Okay.
so it's all good.
Oh, good. So Chef Hank, I'll let you talk about yourself, but I'm just gonna tell you, his name is actually Hank Reed, and you've lived in Snellville for over 20 years. Is that correct?
Hmm.
And you started handing out meals, I believe, in 2019 through Let 'em Eat.
Yes.
um, the community was in such need of assistance, especially with the COVID coming and everything. You didn't expect that to happen, but it was perfect timing. We are grateful to have you on here. If you want to take it from there.
Sure, of course I will. So a lot of what I have to speak about in regards to Let 'em Eat and how the organization and the concept came to me is definitely spiritual. So, being a Christian, we have these different periods, seasons in our lives to where, just certain things happen. This is my third nonprofit actually since I've been in Snellville. The first one focused on athletics for young people. And the whole idea about that, having young kids at the time, I wanted to try to do something, help parents out, again, just focusing on a different level, or I guess tier of athleticism in kids. It's so competitive these days. I wanted to take kids that just wanted to play and create an atmosphere, a training program for them. So, we kind of started with that. Then later on, another nonprofit I started was basically using my skills as a chef and teaching culinary classes and trying to focus on middle school age kids and even younger kids and teaching them skills in the kitchen. So, just trying to give in my community in Snellville, which I love so much. My family and I have been there, as you mentioned, over 20 years now. And, I always just want to give back. But, it's difficult in suburban areas sometimes because you're trying to work and take care of your families. And we don't always have jobs close to where we work. So I found myself working everywhere from downtown Atlanta to out in Athens. And, it's kind of hard to work these jobs, especially in the restaurant industry, and still have
Mhm.
time to give back like you would like to and raise your family at the same time.
Right.
So what I didn't realize was that God was preparing me for what He brought to me now in Let 'em Eat and just the concept. So just a little bit about the name. Some people will ask me, okay, well, what does Let 'em Eat mean? Where does it come from? And I've shared it with several people, but when I'm sitting here devising this plan of service and how I'm going to build this organization and how we're going to get back, I'm thinking, okay, what do I call this thing? Well, Let 'em Eat is something that I've said in restaurant environments as a leader in the kitchen and leader in the restaurant. It's just a term, a phrase that we use. It's kind of what we call a get back phrase. If some of you are not familiar with back of the house, in front of the house, or just different departments in any type of work environment, sometimes they become competitive because one's relying on the other in order to excel or do their job. So just to kind of give you a visual, you have the cooks working in the kitchen, and you have servers working out front. So you get a lot of pressure from, the servers are dealing with the guests. And it's like, how long is it taking for my food? Or where's my food? Where's this or where's that? So then the server comes in the kitchen and they'll scream something ridiculous like, why is it taking so long? Where's my food? How's this going to happen? So over the years, basically in the back of the house, once we get the product or whatever, we kind of got a little edge about ourselves and we put the food up when we finished. And I started saying, let them eat. Here it is. Don't make them wait. Here's the product. And that kind of evolved from just those circumstances to, even in front of the house, a bus pulls up and you didn't expect all these people to come. So, what are we going to do? We're going to let them eat. So people adapted this phrase over the many environments that I've worked in the many locations. So when I'm trying to figure out what I'm naming this organization, that kind of gave me confidence. Well, it's going to be called Let 'em Eat, because I know I have a following of people that I've mentored in the restaurant industry over the years that know what it means. So if they heard it again, then they'd be like, yeah, that's what we used to say, or he used to say that all the time. So that was a kind of a no-brainer. So the next thing I had to, and this is actually developing this concept prior to saying we're going to have a ministry and we're going to give food away. I'm at the point in my career, even after having a restaurant in Snellville between 2006 and 2008 called Trinity Bistro, that I wanted to, get a food truck and do my own thing again, and I'm going to figure out where to go sell. But I knew I had these things I needed. I needed a commissary, I needed a truck, I needed a menu, all this kind of stuff. Well, I'm still in that phase of this is what I'm going to do. And all of a sudden, I got a couple of experiences being, going on staff at First Baptist Church in Snellville as the executive chef. And, through some processes there, I heard God tell me to give the food away. I mean, he literally I heard a voice that said, give it away. Don't worry about trying to build a business and trying to figure out how to go sell this stuff. I just truly heard in my head and my heart, God tell me to give it away. So I immediately kind of knew the impact because of having nonprofits before. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to give this food away. I got to have resources, got to have this and that. I already knew this stuff, but it was just something that I needed to hear internally that said, okay, this is the position that we're going to take. We're going to start a business. We're going to call it Let 'em Eat. We're going to give the food away instead of selling the food, and it's going to work out. So, I've been in the industry for over 30 years now, and, from an executive chef to general manager, from fast food to full service dining. So I have all these experiences in regards to guest relations and how to really take care of people. And I was just looking for an opportunity to give back, to serve my community. And I knew people were hungry. I mean, one of the things I tell people all the time is there's been so many situations that I worked in to where the average person couldn't eat where I worked. I mean, even I couldn't, having a large family, it was difficult for me to take my family out to the places I've worked and be able to afford to feed them all. So these were always things that were concerning to me, but you got to make a living. You have to do what you need to do. So the blessing of being able to go to work for First Baptist Church and, working in my community, which was a big thing. Okay, now all of a sudden I can stay home. I can be close by, literally 5 minutes from my house, and not have to drive to Athens, not have to drive to downtown Atlanta. And, most people know what commutes are like. They can be difficult. The funny thing was, in Athens, I was working for Zaxby's, and it was a different type of commute. Of course, it's a little bit further, but, it's no traffic, as opposed to driving to downtown Atlanta, and it takes an hour and a half to go half the distance. So, the Athens journey was great. And that was like the tail end of right before where I am now. I learned about more corporate structure, because I always said I never wanted to work fast food. I never wanted to work in a place that had fryers, because I don't want to come home smelling like chicken. And I ended up taking a job to do that anyway, because I had a mentor and friend that said, hey, it's a good company, you're going to learn a lot. So I took on the heaviest responsibility that restaurant chain basically had. I worked in one of the top 10 busier stores in their company. And again, creating this environment to where we were letting them eat and people enjoyed working. And but it was just crazy busy, but I learned so much stuff. But that commute was just easier. It's funny, after I stopped working there, I actually came back and I opened the Zaxby's on 124, the new one up by Freddy's. And I remember the first time I was like missing my people out in Athens, and I started to drive out there, and I was like, I cannot believe I drove this far every day. I was like, I don't think I got as far as Monroe, and I had to turn around and come back. So, commutes are really not my thing, but we do what we have to. But just being in these different environments to where, you know, you want to try to feed people, but, families, a family of five, like mine, is it five? No, I had five kids, so a family of seven. So, having a large family, it's like every time you go out and try to take everybody, it costs $100.
Yeah.
So, or more. So those were just things that came to mind. So what God showed me through the opportunity to go work at First Baptist Church was that now I have a chance to go into an environment and they want to eat, but I can make great food. And, we're not trying to make a profit. We're just trying to cover costs. And these families can come in and, you go to Longhorn and, that steak that's on the plate that costs you $30. I know from experience, it costs $5 to put that steak on the plate. So I'm doing the same thing in a church environment, and also encouraging the idea that we can come into this environment and sit down as a family and have this meal, and whatever else the church has to offer is there for them. But my job was to just bring that level of food service up in that environment. So again, the biggest question was, well, people would say, well, why would a church hire a chef? And I was just determined to get people to understand this is why you do that, and it was never as much about the food with me being in that environment as it was just being the kind of person that I've been in restaurants. And because honestly, it can be so cutthroat sometimes, that didn't bode well for me, because when the bottom line is money instead of saving souls, as it is in these religious environment, it's just a totally different thing. And it just brought so much more comfort to me to know that I could be in that environment. And I didn't just want that for First Baptist Church. I wanted it for all churches, because number one, I knew God was taking me somewhere. And the first thing he's doing is bringing me into what I already knew. And that there's a ton of churches with kitchens that were either being underutilized or not used at all. And this is an opportunity to, number one, have chefs come into these environments and make great meals, and just add a different level of ministry in the building. And then it could lead to something else. So this is all pre-thinking before, COVID. I had already been at First Baptist about a year. I started in 2018. And the crazy thing was, I was going to talk to a guy about working with me to build a for-profit business. And the person going into a restaurant to talk to this guy, and the guy that opened the door for me said to me, hey, I was thinking about you the other day. Matter of fact, I was talking about you. And this guy just so happened to work security at First Baptist Church. And the women that were working the program there were leaving. So the conversation I was going into to talk to this guy about just never happened. I mean, I literally walked in the door and said, hey, man, I need to talk to you about something. Started talking to this other guy. And a week or two later, it's like, hey, you came in to talk to me about something. What was it all about? And I was like, never mind, got it covered. So, I mean, it worked out to where I just was able to get into that environment. So, again, that process happened to where the food got better. People were, whereas before they were coming into the church environment and bringing their own food on Wednesday nights, all of a sudden everybody wanted to eat because they're eating like they could eat out at a restaurant. Right. And it's not that hard. So, it just kind of picked up from there. So that kind of instilled in me, number one, families eating and being able to eat at an affordable rate, and just coming in and sitting down and having dinner together. And I knew for a fact that that type of ministry was actually going to benefit what churches need these days, which is their numbers to increase. So all of a sudden now people are coming to eat the food and they're staying for the other programs. So I knew that there was a benefit in that. And even though I was on staff at First Baptist Church, I believe that all churches have an opportunity to minister in their communities. So, I wanted other churches to know that was available. If it's not me in my spare time, then hire a chef so they can come in and do the same thing, and start developing a program. So that idea of that development of how I can take this blueprint of service here and move to another church also led towards what Let 'Em Eat was going to be about. So then, we're finishing up 2019 as I'm developing this program, and practicing going out and serving. I mean, the one thing I realized and knew that during the holidays, people do amazing things all the time with feeding programs, Hosea Williams program around Thanksgiving and the holidays, and many other churches are doing the same thing around the holidays. But I knew people aren't hungry just during the holidays. They're hungry all the time. So I'm trying to take those same concepts of restaurant service, 7 days a week or 6 days a week. They're open all the time. How do I take that and put it into a program to where I can feed people all the time? So, it was the biggest hang up with restaurants and for profit is, well, you got to have a menu so people can pick and choose. Well, we wanted to develop Let Them Eat, the concept of we're going to use our skill set as chefs, and we're going to be able to cook anything people give us, and we're going to work with a standard. And if we don't want food to go to waste, first of all. So if we're in situations to where grocery stores are having to throw away food, or I had a stint at Panera Bread. I worked, and they had what they call a donation, spelled DOUGH, to where they would give their leftover pastries and bread away. So I knew from working in that environment, I always saw these little old ladies come in when we closed to pick this stuff up, and they looked like they were like 5 hours past their bedtime just to come in and try to take advantage of this so they can help people. And a lot of times they were inconsistent and they couldn't make it, and the program was just kind of up and down in regards to that. So I knew from that experience that, okay, I want to make sure I eliminate that. I want to have a mobile vehicle. I want to make sure that if someone called and said we had food and we don't want to throw it away, that we could go get it. So that was a big part of Let Them Eat, is putting ourselves in a position to not have any food waste. Also being in restaurants, knowing that restaurants have their standard of, we want this quality. So that quality doesn't necessarily mean something is bad. It just means that, hey, this is below our standard. So what else are we going to do with this product? So I wanted to make sure that we had an organization that was established and set up so we could take, number one, that liability away from them, in that, a restaurant doesn't want to give somebody something and they get it and say, I got sick, that kind of thing. So we're an organization, purpose to collect these items and assess their viability and whether or not we can reuse them or repurpose them and put them into meals. So we were able to kind of line that up with our model and what we were trying to do. So again, moving out of 2019 with all this in my head in regards to what this organization looks like and how we're going to get the food and how we're going to finance it and do fundraisers. And, we know how to cater. So, that's part of our model now that we're actually trying to work back into the fold is, in order to have revenue come in, the proceeds, if you use us for a catering job, those proceeds go to make more meals to feed more people. So all this stuff was just kind of lined up with, what does this organization look like? How does it function? What's the difference between what we're doing and what people have traditionally done? How do we continue to be consistent? Consistency was a big part. Again, it's definitely not a knock on people who pop up during the holidays, because honestly, what I decided with our organization is that's when we'll take a break, or we'll try to support these other organizations by smoking turkeys or doing something like that. But those are our down times when other people traditionally step up. So those are our holidays, when it's actually holidays and other people kind of step into the fold. But just kind of putting all that stuff into place and, moving towards, number one, even before Let Them Eat kind of pops off the page, prior to that, we have all these churches with the ability to do the same thing. So we put that on the table for them. Hey, you have a kitchen. This is what you can do with it. If you don't have the infrastructure to do it, or don't have the program, don't know whether you can sustain it, that's what Let Them Eat was about. Okay, we can come in and we have our own insurance, our own process. We just need the kitchen. So this is how we can get other churches involved. And, we basically turned that into, once spring hit of 2020 and COVID started to be a reality, I heard another message from God, and it was go. At first it was give it away, and then go. These are like prominent things in my development of this and praying about what was going on with Let 'Em Eat, hearing him say, give it away, and hearing him say, go. No, actually, it was now, was what I heard. The message I heard from God when he said now. And with everything going on, it's like, wait a minute. We're in the middle of a pandemic. This thing is going to be critical for people. But the now meant what you had planned that you knew already existed, which was food insecurity, is about to multiply beyond anyone's concept. And you have a process to address that. All you have to do is expand it. So, that's why a lot of times, just kind of how do we adjust our business? When we first started, we were doing hot meals. We started basically during spring break of last year, and we partnered with a couple of organizations, and we showed up at some schools, sent some meals, and we started partnering with a few churches in the area. And the hot meals were a chore, but it was always about Let 'Em Eat having a refrigerated truck and a food truck, because I knew I would be able to load the refrigerated truck up with food and pull up anywhere and cook in the truck, in the food truck. So that was what we were trying to develop, but we didn't quite have all that stuff at the time. And it became a challenge to try to maintain the hot food and keep it hot so it could be safe and, meet all the regulations that were needed. So, we just figured, and it was difficult, but we kind of scaled back a little bit and said, well, let's do prepared meals and let's freeze the meals. And that way they're whole. We can get more done. We don't have to do everything on that day. And we can cover and help more people. It takes away from that dynamic of homeless people who may not be able to heat these meals up. All this stuff we take in consideration, but we know we have a plan for that once we get, fully funded, and we can get every piece that we need in order to do that. And I'm so excited about the direction that we're headed in, with fundraising for a new food truck, because I always tell people how, when they say, well, what is Let 'Em Eat? What does it look like? I say, imagine when you were a kid and the ice cream man came through your neighborhood ringing that bell, and everybody got excited about going and getting ice cream. I'm going to have that same bell on a food truck, but I'm going to be giving away meals, going to the environments and the neighborhoods of need, no questions asked. I'm the food man, not the ice cream man. So that's the vision of Let 'Em Eat. The secondary vision is also being able to respond to natural disasters. I mean, it broke my heart with Texas going through what they went through a while back, and seeing those restaurant workers just doing everything they could on top of a pandemic to help feed people. And I just felt for the first time it was a gut punch that I didn't have my food truck yet, that I couldn't just get in my car, get in my truck, and drive to Texas and start feeding people just to help. Because it's not hard. It's just that simple. When you have what you need, you can be wherever you need to be and you can go. And it wouldn't have taken away from anything that was going on here in Gwinnett County or wherever else we're feeding, because we kind of book in our services Monday through Friday. But man, I would have loved to have Friday afternoon told my team, hey, I'm load the truck up, going to Texas. See you on Monday. And just nonstop. That's what my heart is. That's what my dream and goal is. So, again, that starting back in the spring and making that adjustment to the prepared meals has been a major positive transition for us, because we've been able to help more people. Last week or 2 weeks ago, we got up to distributing 3,000 meals per week. And, again, I got the team there and volunteers, and people are coming in, and, people ask me all the time, well, what'd you cook? Well, okay, I'm Chef Hank, but my goal is not to, be 90 years old in the kitchen all the time. So, I have a young chef. His name is Kel, and Kel is my nephew. Kel drives over here to Gwinnett County every day from Ackworth. He's 22 years old, and he aspires to be a chef. And he's worked in restaurants. It's funny, he's worked for some of the same people that I worked with and didn't know it for years. But I mean, he's passionate about this because it's showing him something different. And I'm actually wanting chefs that are getting up there in years to know, because we always want to know what are we going to do or how are we going to finish
Yeah.
in our careers. And we know we can't just grind in the kitchen like that. We just don't. We're not meant to. That's a young man's game, but we got to do something. You know, and in rare cases, is there a retirement for us? So we have to find something. And I'm encouraging chefs to do what I'm doing now.
Well, you're
Find a
definitely
way
an
to serve.
inspiration. You definitely
It,
are. And it
it's
says
great.
you usually do 200 to 500 meals each weekday. Is that
Uh,
approximately?
yeah, we're up to 800 now. We're
Oh,
doing a
wow.
day. That's mostly focusing on Tuesday, Monday through Thursday. So we're
Hmm.
doing about 800 meals a day, so we can prepare and stay ahead. And that way, like when the week starts, we're not trying, because we picked up two distributions at Norcross First United Methodist Church
Hmm.
and Mountain Park, and we're doing about 800 meals on those days. And then we're supported by the Southeast Co-op. We do 300 meals there on Wednesday. So we try to have that stuff done and ready to go out for delivery. So that's why we try to stay ahead. But yeah, we're about 800 meals a day.
That's amazing. Just amazing. So where do you see yourself now? I talked to you and you were talking about possibly starting a garden, um, and getting other people to start volunteering. And where do you
Mhm.
see yourself in the future?
Wow. So that's a great question. This is going awesome because one of the things that, number one, the blessing of just the county, Gwinnett County, with some COVID funding. Again, that was difficult because we're new and we're trying to figure out how to navigate and operate. And we figured it out, and we were able to put ourselves in a position to operate. We know it's not going to last forever, but we just want to position ourselves as a viable organization. So, people will look at us and say, "Hey, we love what they're doing, and we want to support them." And some of the things, when some of the other rounds of COVID funding came up, didn't necessarily focus on food, even though every time they said food, my ears perked up like, hey, how can we get in on that? But most of it was housing and homelessness. And that was the next thing, because we were already thinking about, we'd like to have some land. We need our own facility,
Hmm.
but we now that went from, hey, maybe we should get in a warehouse, to maybe we should try to get some agricultural land, put our own facility out there and get it permitted and certified so we can grow and utilize some of our own products. And then it got to, well, the people that we're serving really need help. So if we get enough land, maybe we can look into some emergency shelter facilities on the property.
Hmm.
And I know, as much as we're in on a lot of calls, and we're trying to do things about housing and stuff. And one of the short stories I can tell you, right before I started working with First Baptist Church, we had economic problems in my household, and we took advantage of resources in the community. And I remember going to Overcomer's house with Miss Ann Mills, and we do what we have to do. And I remember sitting in there and filling out the paperwork and showing up to get a box of food because we needed it. But I
Hmm.
told her one day, and that was before I got the job, I said, Miss Ann, I appreciate everything you're doing for me. And one of these days, I'm going to give back. I'm going to find a way. And this was before any thought of Let Them Eat. And I'm so proud to work with her and so many other people in the community now with that. But just knowing that we try to accommodate a lot of research. So sometimes my point is, you have to be in these situations sometimes and understand what it means to be one check away from homelessness, in order to understand the help that people need. So we're in these distributions, and we see people come by, and you start to sadly identify who's living in their car by
Hmm.
what's in the car and what time of the day it is, and the kids aren't in school and everything's in the car. And you start to think, what do these people need? Well, what they need, number one, that's everything they have. So they have to protect the contents of their car in their car. What they need is a safe place to park and sleep for the night
Hmm.
first. That's like number one thing. But sometimes when you don't you're not close enough to that. You're thinking, we need to get them in some shelter, but we can't do it right now. So that not right now turns into weeks and months of nothing, instead of if they just had somewhere to pull their car up and tell their kids, hey, we're going camping for a couple of days and we're going to pull up to this spot, and they have a tent there and they have resources and it's a building there with Wi-Fi, so they can go and try to put their resources back together and get back on their feet, or go from that stage of 2 days to, okay, now we got you in a shelter. So that's kind of what we're taking a look at now with Let 'em Eat in regards to applying for grants, finding funding in order to be able to get enough land so we can work on some emergency shelter, some gardening, some things that we can grow, some stuff that those people can help keep them busy and get their mind off of some of the things that they need to focus on for a minute, and also have us somewhere to where we can do our production and continue to do the things that we're doing. So that's what we're looking at for the future of Let 'em Eat. This stuff is rapid and it comes around pretty fast, but that's where we're hoping to be, coming up sometime soon.
I do have a question. Have you got any advice for anyone watching who wants to pursue a career in the culinary profession?
Yeah, I have tons of advice. First thing, let me say, is I'm always available. Contact me with that question. That's a loaded question, and it's not a short period of time. So and I'll say this for, say, parents with young people, because I have two older sons and I have a set of 19-year-old triplet daughters. So nobody ever wanted to be in the restaurant industry, but all of them either have or are working in restaurants now. And it wasn't like, they couldn't do anything else, but I mean, I'm talking about it. I guess that's what they knew. But what I would say is, it's right now it's different because of COVID. I mean, we're all in just a different space. But prior to this, finding good mentors in management in those situations is important for your young people, because it can be a really rough place for young people to be and work if they don't have good people leading them. You're not looking for bosses, you're looking for leaders. And they're few and far in between, because it's hard for them to keep their job if they're not just hammers. And, everyone's not the same way. So you can't manage or lead people the same way. So for young people, again, just, finding out who they're working for if they get that job at McDonald's or Burger King, and asking them questions and getting them to understand, hey, you're looking for leaders. Even though this is just a job, you're just trying to make money, you want to be in a great place. And, typically people will say, well, Chick-fil-A is a great place to work. And it is, because they believe in hiring leaders and not bosses. And that's important for a lot of organizations. And, you think that that's the concept or the mission of most establishments, but it's about what's on the ground, who's leading there. Now, in regards to being a little older, and say you want to start a restaurant, talk to somebody. This is a prime example. It's like, a person's like, yeah, I got a little money, I'm saving some, or I got some funding, and I'm gonna open this restaurant because my grandmother has this great macaroni and cheese recipe, and it's just gonna go wild and everybody's gonna buy it. So you open this restaurant and you're trying to sell this macaroni and cheese, and all people want is a good basket of fries. But you're just hung up on what you thought, when it's going to change based on your clientele, because you're there for them. It's not to say that you can't put those recipes, or you got all these good ideas, put them into action. But if you don't deal with what's going to help your bottom line, then you're going to struggle. Right. And, so that's one point about that. And I guess another point in getting in the business is you really need some money to get started. When I started my restaurant, my mentality was, I've been doing this for 20 years and it's time for me to stop making somebody else's money and make my own money. And you got all these ideas about stuff. And then you get into it and it's like, the mistakes you make is not building up to things and just jumping into stuff. Like I'll say my biggest mistake when I opened my restaurant was I had to have an Aloha POS system. So as soon as I could get in there and get rid of that cash register that people had, I was going to replace that with something. And I wasn't ready for that. You know, I needed a pen and a piece of paper and a calculator and write this stuff down and do it that way.
Mhm.
And so those are the things to watch out for, is moving too fast, especially if you don't have the capital that will sustain you for 6 months. And that's everything, any bills, payroll, anything like that. And the other thing too is if you can't pay yourself in these circumstances, that's going to be a problem, because now you got a family to look after, or you're in a situation like that where people depend on you. And when that starts to be an issue, then it's going to be hard to maintain it, because your heart's not going to be into it. You know,
Right.
you want to get into that industry because you feel it and it's in your heart. But once you see that workload start to happen and that fun comes out of it, you got to know how to adjust to that, because it'll happen. So that's my advice.
We have a question from Gina. She says, how can we help volunteer our time? Help or volunteer time?
So we're like I said, we're still young and growing. One of the most recent things we've tried to do is ask for what we need, and volunteers is helpful. But even with that, now with things kind of going up and down, it's like we don't like to say, hey, sign up to volunteer and then not have anything for you to do. So I have to be a more specific, I guess, business owner in the stuff that I need, because there's some things I need that don't require hands. It requires skill sets. Like, we start these businesses and we know we need financial support, but we also know we need someone to manage the books and someone to do our marketing and someone to do all these different things. Because of course we start by ourselves. That logo that you see, I'm really proud of that, because I created that logo myself.
Oh,
Now I had it professionally touched up, but the whole idea behind mobile food provisions, prepared with care and serve with compassion to those in need, which is our mission statement. And when you look at that written and look at that logo that says let them eat at the same time, you wonder, what does let them eat mean? And then you read that, it's like, man, I can't reach back fast enough to pat myself on the back, for that one. But it does require people to help digitize this logo and put this thing together. Because I've seen people try to do their own logo and I'm like, I can't read it. What does this say? That kind of stuff. So how to help? We do have our website is www.lettemeat.com. That's LETTUMEAT. We do have a volunteer tab on the website. Volunteer at Let 'em Eat is the email. So we're processing, say, information applications. So we do encourage people to sign up, because now when we're ready to grow, we want to have people in position to be able to kind of spot up and help out. Our thing again about our process, we are producing and manufacturing, and we do some delivery and put the meals in place. But a lot of times we need people in these different sites and locations to distribute the meals. Or as we grow, because right now we're working, those 3,000 meals a week are being boxed up by 2 employees and maybe 2 or 3 volunteers. So we can do more, but again, expansion is strategic. But right now we're just in Gwinnett County, which people are hungry everywhere. So we're looking to find out where people are hungry and get into those areas. So the big thing is to go to the website and go on to the volunteer tab and let us know you're out there. And that'll let us know, that we can grow and do more.
I do have another question. What is the dish you love to cook most?
Yeah, there we go with that cook thing again. So, what is it?
I don't know. Macaroni and cheese sounds really good now.
Well, I'm getting into new things now. I'm a process chef. Like, how do we do a lot of this efficiently kind of thing? And a lot of people ask me, I bet your wife and daughters love you because you cook all the time at home. No, I do not. I don't cook all the time at home. But I have extensive experience in Southern cuisine and Cajun cuisine. So I like when the holiday season comes around and I'm making collard greens because I have a really special recipe and it has some tricks and tips in there. I love to grill and smoke meat. So, we've been blessed with this massive smoker. So we plan on doing videos and teaching people how to use a smoker and how to do different things like that. And then Cajun cuisine is something I've been the executive chef at a couple of restaurants back in the 90s in Buckhead that were Cajun and Creole themed restaurants. So, my shrimp and grits and my grits and all that kind of stuff's on point. So, I like messing with all that kind of stuff.
Well, just so you know, I am at the Snellville Library. If you ever want to drop anything by.
Right.
You're making me so hungry, and I have a lean cuisine for lunch, so.
Well, like I said, I don't eat much better. I'm on a diet now, so it's like ground turkey and broccoli, so.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions for Chef Hank right now? Ooh. One other question was, I had some questions sent to me prior. It said, where is it? When did you realize that the culinary profession was your chosen career path?
It's funny. It's a funny story. So I've always been, as a young man, a family man. Like I knew I wanted a family. So I said, hey, I just want to do something that I like doing. And my choices were cosmetology, because people were always going to want to look good. So I was going to learn how to do hair, or culinary, because people are always going to need to eat. So I'm glad I chose this, because my daughters would drive me crazy at this point if I had to deal with them in their hair. So that was about 18 years old when I just kind of said, hey, this is what I'm going to do.
Well, that's great. I mean, obviously this is what you were meant to do. Because you're doing so much. And I think when people say real superheroes, Chef Hank, I think you're a real superhero.
Wow.
I think you're doing amazing work. And I found out about you through Ann Siri, our volunteer rep, and she just adores you. I mean, and when I started reading up, I read up on you. I was just like, this is so amazing. And you're actually popping up on my newsfeed as well on Facebook. Wow. So people are sharing your story.
Nice.
And I just think it's amazing what you are doing right now.
Well, thank you so much for having me and giving me this platform to talk about, where it came from and why we're doing it. And we plan on being here at whatever level. It doesn't matter whether we're feeding 3,000 or 3. If they're hungry, we're going to let them eat.
Oh, thank you so much, Chef Hank.
Excellent.
So any other questions? Michelle, you look like are you asking a question?
No, I was clapping.
Oh, okay. She was clapping. I didn't know what she was doing.
I was like, I need a reaction because it was a wonderful talk. Thank you so much.
I'm also friends with Michelle. And when I found out I was having you for Garden Fest, I said, Michelle, you'll never guess who I got. Chef Hank. And I'm telling everybody, I've got Chef Hank.
I couldn't believe you were so excited. That day I was talking
and then
to
I'm
you,
like, I talked to him. He's so nice. So this was big for me. So thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, you're doing great work for our community. So.
Thank you for our time.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Your time. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Okay. All right. I'm going to drive this truck back now.
Okay. You have a good day.
Thanks, guys. Bye. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.